Sactown Sports 1140.
Or listen on the Sactown Sports app.
You know, Drapes, the Kings, you may have been part of this yesterday. They worked out a few players. And even though the Kings have, pick 42, there's a guy or two they worked out yesterday that some fans are getting excited about.
Really?
A little bit.
Who are they getting excited about?
Well, we'll find out here. We'll share that. We'll get the latest on them from Rafael Barlowe, Director of Scouting and owner of NBA Big Board, host and producer of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. How are you today, Rafael?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
We're doing good. Let me see what you think of a couple of guys that worked out for the Kings yesterday. Some fans are excited, first of all, about from Duke, 6'5" point guard Tyrese Parker. How excited should fans be about him potentially falling to the Kings at 42?
Yeah, honestly, 2 years ago, I thought that Tyrese Parker was going to be a lottery pick. I thought he showed a lot of flashes at his freshman year at Duke.
Yeah.
And then they kind of moved him off the ball some, but he's a connector. He has good size. He can shoot. He can pass. He may have a little bit more game than he can show. So there's a reason to be excited there, especially for Sacramento, where there's some opportunities to play a lot in the guard spot.
Yeah, so there's a possibility he won't last till 42, right?
I think he should be there. I mean, it's going to be a crapshoot. This draft is all over the place, and there's a lot of seniors, and he's not a senior, but yeah, man, I think there's a reason to be excited.
Okay.
Like I said, if you look at some of the tape from his freshman year when he played with Derek Lively, and at the end of the season, he was a big part of their turnaround. He showed some creation off the dribble, but then they moved him off the ball, and he just pretty much turned into like a connector and a passer.
Hey, Rafael, when you look at, this draft and, point guard a clear need for Sacramento, I've maintained that a possibility could be moving up. We'll get to that in a minute. But at 42, is there, I know we talked about Proctor, is there anybody that could come in and actually play more than spot duty? You think anybody you targeting, midway through that second round?
From the point guard spot, there's a guy that I like. He's a little undersized, and I kind of struggle with where to rank him because I don't have him as a first-round pick, but I think he's going to be a 7 or 8 year pro plus. And usually, if a guy is going to play 7 or 8 years, then that's worthy of a first-round pick. And that is Ryan Nimhart from Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah.
Very smart, led the nation in assists. He got invited to the G League Elite Camp a few weeks ago in Chicago, and then he was invited to the NBA Combine. But I want to say there were like 5 guys from the G League Elite Camp that got invited to the NBA Combine, and 2 of them were his teammates. So he made them look better and got them invited to the NBA Combine. And then when I saw him at the NBA Combine, the guy that everyone talked about who's, I guess, kind of close to your area, and Maxime Reynaud, who everyone said had a big combine, was one of the biggest winners of the combine. Whose team was he on? He was on Ryan Nimhart's team. So I think Ryan Nimhart is going to be, maybe your second or your third point guard, but I think he has what it takes to stick for a long time.
Now, one potential drawback for him is his size, correct?
Yep. Yeah, the NBA is definitely a league where it's kind of brutal on small point guards. We've seen some small point guards get drafted in the late first round and second round and then be out of the league before their rookie contract ended. But I think the difference between Nimhart and some of the other smaller point guards is they want to score. Nimhart wants to run the offense. He wants to get guys involved. And I think players like playing with guys like that.
Is he a Tyus Jones type? Like, what's a comparison?
Yeah, Tyus Jones type, Corey Joseph type, guys that just stick around. They can run the offense. They take care of the ball. Great teammates. And it's kind of like an extension of a coach on the floor, which is what you want out of your second or third point guard.
Talking with Rafael Barlowe. He's the director of scouting and owner, NBA Big Board, and he's the host, producer of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Another name that I know fans are throwing around here a little bit, Hanson Yang, 7'1" center from China. What can you tell us about him?
I love him, man. Me and my brother, we call ourselves the Yang Gang.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Hanson Yang. The first time I saw him play was at a U18 tournament and he was going up against Alex Sarr, who was the number 2 pick of last year's draft, and he just outplayed him. I mean, Sarr, he didn't want anything with Hanson Yang, and Yang is a big physical guy. He's 7'1", like 250. He's skilled, and I'm not big at throwing out comparisons. I know people are going to think I'm crazy, and I'm not saying he's these players, but he has some Kevin McHale in him as far as just creativity and instincts in the block, whether it's up and unders, touch, skill. Very skilled around the block. A very good passer. I mean, there's some people that think passing is his best feature.
Yeah, Rafi, I saw one comp of him that was Bogut.
I haven't seen Bogut. That's interesting, but he is that type of really good passer, like your Şengün. Not necessarily Jokic in the fact that he's going to be a point center, but I think he's your hub to where you give him the ball, he's going to find cutters. But he's a very clever passer. He led the CBA in blocks. So, but some people think like, well, that absolutely means nothing. but to me, it's a little something. But I really like Hanson Yang, and just to be honest, I know this is a Kings-based podcast, but I'm like, if I'm the Brooklyn Nets and I have 4 first-round picks, I'm not letting him. Leave the first round.
Okay, worthy of a first rounder. Okay, let me ask you this then, Raphael, because I started off the conversation talking about a potential move up for Sacramento. Personally, I think that's on the board. You know, if I'm them, I might try to get up later into that first round. Is there anybody, let's say 19 through 25, 26, 27, that point guard that's worthy of a team jumping up and trying to get him?
You know, that's a tough question. I have heard that the Kings are one of the teams that are going to be aggressively looking to move up. I think Michigan State's Jace Richardson could be in that range.
I like that name. Yep.
He's on the smaller side, measured out at 6 foot. At Michigan State, he didn't really play the point, so I think there's some risk there because he is on the smaller side, even though I just talked about Ryan Nimhart. But with Richardson, he was very, very efficient. But sometimes he played the 1, sometimes he played the 2, sometimes he played the 3. You didn't really get a chance to see him as a full-time distributor. So I think that could be a little risky. And I struggle with, did Michigan State put him in the best position to succeed, or did they actually hold him back? So the Sacramento thinks that he could be a point guard and he had more to his game than what he was able to show at Michigan State, then he could be in that range. I've heard some people think that Diego Dimon could fall outside of the lottery. 6'9" point guard from BYU. I think he's the best passer in the draft. Maybe needs to be a little bit more aggressive. I think if you look at some of the best passers in the NBA today, they really unlock their playmaking when they're aggressive and looking to score. So I think if Diego was a little bit aggressive, that could really open things up for him. Some like Walter Clayton. I don't know if he's a starting point guard, but he's a winner. He just won a championship at Florida. He's a shot maker. So there's some options there.
That's Rafael Barlowe. He's the host of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, and he just shared with us that he's hearing the Kings are one of the teams that are aggressively looking to move up. I have one more international player to ask you about. This is another guy we've seen here. They're potentially linked to the Kings. Another bogey, Bogoljub Markovic. What can you tell us about him?
So I kind of made a name for myself in this space by knowing the international guys.
Okay,
and so I've actually seen him in person in a tournament back in Serbia. I want to say it was 2022. And I liked him. I took notes on him. And again, he was like 16 at the time. And the first thing that stood out to me was I labeled him as skinny tough. He was real thin at the time, but he wasn't afraid to throw his body around. He didn't have that one skill set that stood out, but he was just good at everything. He blocked shots. He ran the floor. He made good passes.
He's got some size, right? He's got some legitimate size.
Yeah, he's got some size now. Yeah, he's 6'11". I talked to him briefly through social media, and he's definitely gotten stronger. But he's a connector. He's a guy that is able to, best case scenario, play multiple roles, and he just knows how to play the right way, and he just brings a lot to the table.
Raphael, last one for me. When I'm looking at the mock drafts, I see a lot of, how should I put this? Players with U.S. experience and college here. last year we had a lot of international guys at the top. How much impact do you think the international guys will have on this year's draft?
Well, honestly, a lot of the top international guys played college basketball this year, and I think that's going to be a wave that we're going to see a lot of, just because the money that they can make in NIL is a lot more than what they'll make playing in Europe, and even some of the European clubs are making money off the buyouts when their young players go to the college route. But I think as far as the international players in this class, it's really a crapshoot in a sense, because you have Nolan Traore, who many people thought was a top 5 pick coming into this year. He struggled a little bit out the gate playing over in France, and it kind of made people fall off of him. But I still kept all my stock in him, because I think that if the roles are reversed, and if we took one of our American point guards and we put them in France in a pro league, I think they'd have an adjustment period too of struggling. So I think the same stuff that he showed, what made everybody high on him at this time last year, I think is still there. He just got off to a rough start. He's over in France. There's Hugo Gonzalez, who's playing in Spain and Real Madrid. I think he's one of the biggest wild cards in this draft, because out of the 2006 born generation in Europe, he was the guy. He was always like the top player. And then he just goes to a situation where he's playing behind a lot of former NBA players and Spanish league stars. So he hasn't had the opportunity to really, put together some good film this year. His team is currently still playing, so teams can't even bring him there for a workout. But I think he could be a wild card. There's quite a few guys. Ben Saraf, who's playing in Germany. He's Israeli, but he's one of the few international guys that's actually playing a significant role on a team as a young guy. And so he's like a big point guard. Best case scenario is a big point guard, but I think he's like a combo guard. But he led the FIBA U18s in scoring at 28 points a game, and he's having a good year this year. But he could be in that late first round range. But I'll say there's probably maybe 4 international guys that I think could be first round picks.
Okay. We appreciate it, Raphael. We're just kind of wandering in the darkness with so many of these players as we get ready for the draft, and you come in with, you got your helmet on with the light on it, and you're shining it on these players, telling us about it. We appreciate it very much. We hope to talk to you again soon. And we hope to be talking to you soon about the Kings moving up, but fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, let me know. We can make it happen anytime.
All right. Thank you, Raphael. Appreciate it. From the NBA big board, Rafael Barlowe. Kings moving up, Trey.
I told you, Whitey, come on, man. It makes sense, big fella. It makes sense.
Yeah. More on that when we come back to Sactown.